All right. Hi, and welcome back to LibraryPalooza Lookback. I am Rylee L from Brandeis High School, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with the author, Michael Grant. Mr. Grant was raised by a military family who moved a lot, and he still keeps moving. One of the reasons he became a writer is because it's a job that won't tie him down. Mr. Grant and his wife, author K.A. Applegate, have written roughly 150 books, including the popular 90s series Animorphs, and more recently, the Islanders series. Solo, Mr. Grant has written the wildly popular and New York Times best-selling teen series Gone, which I have with me right here. And as well as the Magnificent 12, Berserk, Messenger of Fear, and the Frontline series, featuring an alternate history of World War II from the point of view of women in combat. Welcome, Mr. Grant.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I do have to, since I know people of an age will be looking at this, say, don't smoke cigars. You'll look ridiculous. They taste terrible. And you have to be an old man to get away with it. So don't.
You were featured at LibraryPalooza in 2016. Tell us what you remember about the event. Was it the first time you'd met the panelists? Have you formed any long listing panelists? Those authors were Brandon Sanderson, Leigh Bardugo, April Henry, Kira Cass, and George O'Connor.
No, I remember sort of vaguely, but I don't. I know Leigh Bardugo. I mean, I know that she's a writer. I actually don't know the others, but I hope they won't feel dissed by that. I read an astonishingly small amount of YA. I think I don't think there's ever been an author less prepared to do what they're doing than I am. I don't know if you know the story, but we started out back when I was in trouble with the law, and we were cleaning toilets in Cape Cod, and we were in our 30s, having spent 10 years doing various and sundry dead-end jobs. And Catherine basically ordered me to become a writer. She said, you know, we need to get our act together. We need to have a life. We need to maybe have kids and careers and all that. And I looked around at our vacuum cleaners and our mops and said, really? This isn't enough? So I decided to become a writer along with her, and we did various things and worked our way through Sweet Valley Twins, ghostwriting, and wrote a bunch of group of kids, kind of series, 3 of those that went on to multiple books with a packager, and you know, learned our job in the process. But it's always been a very practical education for me. So I'm a high school dropout. I've never taken a course in writing. I think probably Catherine did. She's got a BA, so she must have at some point taken a creative writing course. And she's a better writer than I am, so maybe there's something to that. So going into it, like when we hit the Animorphs era, neither of us knew, for example, what a reading level was. And we had read no middle grade. I mean, we looked at like a couple of Bob Stein's Goosebumps to kind of get, because we thought we were going to write something like that. And of course we wrote something completely different. And the same with YA. Before I wrote Gone, I had not ever read a young adult novel. And there was no dystopian because Gone came out before Hunger Games. And so I didn't really know that this was going to be a thing. So I went into that as usual, unprepared, knowing nothing. So it's a long way of answering the question that I don't know a lot of authors. I know like a handful of guys, you know, and half the time I'll forget their names. So I'm not good with names. I've lived everywhere, known lots of different people, and people tend to be temporary in my life because I move so often. So I think I have a tendency not to remember people and not to remember names. And it's terrible. Anytime I go to a public event, if I have a publicist with me, the first thing I always say is, don't assume I know anybody. I don't care if they come up and say, you know, they lived with me for 3 years. Assume that I won't remember them, and whisper their name to me, and you know, and take care of me. And then the publicist ignores me and wanders away, and I insult people by not remembering their names. So that's just, you know.
Totally get that. I'm also terrible with names. All right. What are the benefits of book festivals like LibraryPalooza? What do you enjoy most about participating in them? And are there any special festival experiences that you would be willing to share?
Well, I do like, I'm, I guess, famously antisocial. So is Catherine. We're like the only people for whom the COVID lockdown doesn't really change anything. We were already at home having everything delivered. Um, but nevertheless, I like being in green rooms, meeting other writers. And, and I don't exactly know why. It's not like we sit there and go, oh, here, let's talk some ideas. It's always gossip. We're always talking about deals. I think probably people, normal people think, I'll bet when two big deal writers get together, they talk about sentence structure and, and how to structure a story. We're like, no, what'd you get for that? You got that? Huh? You should have asked for more, man. Talk to my agent, that kind of thing. That's most of what the conversation is, that and gossip. But I like to hear it. And often in those cases, I'm almost always like the oldest guy in the room. And so I can actually play, wise old hand and tell people how to deal with stuff. And that's kind of fun and entertaining, and to the extent that it's useful, good. As for specific experiences, I remember one where I was in Texas, but down south. I think it's a Bluebonnet, maybe. And it was a tight plane connection, and they had to I had detailed a couple of people to come and grab me physically and haul me away, because I'll stand there and sign books and talk to people forever. So they had to haul me out, and then I went the wrong way and missed the plane anyway. I went the wrong way on the beltway around Houston. Instead of taking, I think I got there like 2 hours late. So I spent the night in the hotel and went the next day. But no, I mean, like, nobody's done anything horrible or anything. Last event was in the UK, and I wish I remembered the place. It was a gigantic building, like medieval looking building. I think Henry VIII built it or something like that. And it wasn't quite a church, but it looked like a church inside. And they put 900 kids in there. And I'm up at the front on a raised platform, and there's a red chair that looks an awful lot like a throne. So I was like, thank you, I've finally arrived. I know one where I was in New Zealand, and they did the haka dance, the kind of thing. And I didn't know anything about it. I was just like, this is excellent. I want this at all of my events from now on. Anywhere I go, I'm going to make it a requirement from now on. You have to do a dance at some point to welcome into your place.
Alrighty. What have been some writing or professional highlights since LibraryPalooza in 2016?
I've co-written, I'm the uncredited co-author with Catherine on the Endling series, because it's much more plot heavy, and it's sometimes useful to have me involved for that kind of stuff, putting those kind of bones in it. Excuse me. And I've moved to Hollywood, and that happened because we thought there might be a chance we get a Gone TV series made. And I was actually in London and with Catherine, and we were looking to move there. We were going to relocate because I love London, and wherever our computer is, that's our office.
Right.
So we were going to move to London, and we were looking around, and I had this one meeting with these guys. I didn't know anything about them. They were producers. I thought, oh, Christ. And I almost canceled. And I went in and talked to the guy. I really liked both the guys. And he said, what we want to do is we want to adapt Gone. I go, like, everybody and his brothers talked about that. They go, but we want you to write it. At which point I was like, oh, okay. Well, that would be interesting. That would be different. And so I control everything having to do with Gone. So it probably won't get made. And if it doesn't get made, one of the reasons it won't get made is because I'm insisting on being the head writer. And my two partners running the thing. One's a producer, one's a director. Both BAFTA winners, by the way, which is the British version of an Emmy or an Oscar, depending on your thing. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. That I've been trying to figure out that job on the off chance that we actually have to do it. I should probably think about what it would be, just for once in my life, think about something in advance. But other than that, not much. I think this is my semi-retirement. And yet when I was looking back, I was thinking, well, what have I done since I turned 60, which is 6 years ago? Turns out I've written like 12 books or something. And I'm like, really? Oh, well, that's a fair amount of work. You should be okay with that. Because I wrote the Monster trilogy during that period of time. Wrote, I think the last book of Frontlines would have been in there. The adult books and the Endling books with Catherine. Probably something else I'm forgetting. So no, I feel like but I'm still feel kind of semi-retired. And so I spend an awful lot of time watching TV and making tarts and, and whatnot, and doing all the things people do. But also on the side, look, I'm writing screenplays, mostly to teach myself to write screenplays and coming up with ideas and stuff. But for me, I don't think of it as work unless I have a deadline and a paycheck. You know, everything else is just me screwing around from my perspective.
Well, personal opinion, I would love a Gone TV show.
I'm hoping, yeah, I would say probably about a 5% chance at this point.
All right, let's see. When you visited us, Frontlines, which was the first book of that trilogy, had just been released. So how have readers like continued to react to that book and that series?
Well, to be honest with you, it hasn't sold at all well. So I haven't had a lot of feedback from them. I do go on Goodreads and I read that stuff and I look at it because a lot of times it's interesting and I'll learn something. And other times I just need to, be angry at something. And that's always good. And I've been looking for screw ups in the history because the concept of Frontlines is I'm going to tell the absolute story, the history. And not every individual firefight, obviously, but in terms of the broad strokes of the history, it's going to be historically accurate. But I'm going to insert my characters into it in a Zelig kind of thing. I'm going to put them where they need to be to make the story interesting. So I didn't make up anything except for individual firefights, individual confrontations. So I've been looking for somebody to come along and go, in 1944, blah, 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 and busted me on something or other. But I'd actually put work into this. I'd actually I did a lot of research. I went out and looked at, I touched the equipment. I fired the guns. I went to Las Vegas and you can fire Thompson submachine guns and stuff and Garand rifles. So I got very into the research and I thought I knew it. So I thought it was good. But I go there from time to time to see if there's new reviews and look through and see if somebody's busted me on anything. I got 2 hits. One, apparently I misidentified them as I mentioned a boot camp instead of basic training. Boot camp is the Marines. Basic training is Army. Mm-hmm. I should have known that. I didn't know, but I just got lazy. And the other one was a stupid one where I just had a silly scene where I have a character in New York be at a posh restaurant and John Wayne walks by. And John Wayne had this, tagline of calling everybody Pilgrim. So I have him walk by and go, Pilgrim. And then, of course, somebody gets on and goes, yeah, not till like 1946, dude. That whole thing didn't start. So I was like, okay, fine. But other than that, it was pleasant. Most contact I have is probably with Animorphs fans and Gone fans. And that's because we have social media now, obviously. So I have Twitter. I stick to Twitter. I just don't want any more work. There are more things to do. So yeah, I talk more to them. Every now and then I'll hear somebody go, yeah, I really love Frontlines. I've got a couple kids who were really into Frontlines. But it was a difficult thing. And like I said, put down 2 bets. One was I'm going to try alternate history. I'm going to try horror at the same time. So I did Frontlines and I did Messenger of Fear. Oh, that's the other thing I wrote. It's ridiculous at the point where you don't actually remember that you've written a book. But there's 150 of them, and we say 150 because every time we count, it comes out different. So it's about 150, give or take. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing. And those are the fans I talk to more just because there's a hell of a lot more. Yeah. I think Frontlines is a heavy lift for a lot of people. It's long, it's 1,500 pages, 3 books. It's a lot of actual history in there. I knew the opening was going to have to be slow. So like I said, I didn't sell a lot of books, but it's one of the rare cases where I go, yeah, okay, it doesn't matter. I love that baby anyway, even if it wasn't popular.
That's really surprising. Those books are super popular in our school district. Those books travel from school to school to school.
Really? Yeah. I'll tell you what, I think it's the best work I've done. It's the best thing I've written is Frontlines, without question.
Alrighty, well, let's go ahead and hit our last question. What can readers look forward to expecting from you? Like, what are you working on right now?
Not working on anything except Gone TV and screenplays. And look, Catherine and I just had a conversation literally yesterday or the day before, and we're looking to possibly do a series that is a true K.A. Applegate thing. So the way the brand names work is K.A. Applegate is almost always the 2 of us. Catherine Applegate now is always her. Michael Grant is always me, although, we cross-pollinate ideas and help each other, and obviously. And then old Catherine Applegate, that's also both of us. So it's confusing, but we're looking for, we're kind of toying with the idea of a middle grade series, and we're thinking about just putting it up on, doing it digitally, because we kind of like the idea of going back to a monthly thing. We think that's a space that nobody's occupying right now for excellent reasons, because it's, you know, it breaks your back. But nevertheless, yeah, it'd be like fun. So we're kind of nosing around there, but that's nothing serious yet. Oh, and the Animorphs graphic novels are out, and people should check those out. The guy who did it is Chris Grine. He's done all the work. I guarantee we did nothing to do with it. So just to be clear, you know, where the credit goes, and everybody's so far been very positive about it. So that's cool.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much for joining us today, Mr.
Sure.
Grant. It was great to hear from you, and we look forward to the day you can return to San Antonio.
Thank you. I'd love it. Take it easy.